Art, I want to ask one more question. I know that we're winding down our interview time with you, and everyone, please get your copy of Black Gun, Silver Star. They do have copies today that you can get it signed. You can take it and own it yourself. Yet one of the questions that I want Art to leave us with, so that as we go out into our personal lives as well as into our professional lives, I want us to get feedback from him on a system for researching. Remember I said he's been researching Bass Reeves for 20 years. In Toastmasters, we don't take just one topic and do one speech on it. We can take one topic and do 30 speeches on it. So for us, Art, what would you give us if you had to give us the down and dirty, quick and easy, simple process for doing our research and being able to produce something as phenomenal as what you produced? What would you say is that system for us doing our research?
Well, being a historian, as far as me and research, my technique is to find everything, I mean everything, that's possibly related to what I'm researching. And so that's what the written word, that's oral stories, going into old books, I mean, just anywhere that you might find information, go for it. Being in the National Archives, being in newspapers, talking to people, that information. And once you gather the information, then you have to, go through it and try to find out what you want to write or what you want to keep that you feel has been established. Now, a lot of times when you do research, it's kind of sometimes hard. I've seen with newspapers where I have 3 different newspapers going over the same story, and it's 3 different stories. And when that happens, sometimes you have to decide, well, which one you want to personally project. And me personally, I try to be as objective as possible versus being subjective. Some people get mad about that, but a lot of times in my writings, I'll put all the resources so the reader can decide what they want to believe that I found, versus me taking one and saying, okay, this is probably what happened. And so a lot of times things are never just perfectly clear in terms of what happened, but there's information out there that will give you a greater sense of what happened and how it happened. But you have to do the research. Like when I had to go through newspaper files, and you have to go through these readers, and your eyes start tearing and getting red, and you have to go through it to try to find out what was written in the newspapers, because most of the time you can't find it in a book. And so during the Writers Workers Project, and thank God to FDR, they tried to put people to work. That's when they interviewed the slaves, and they had these slave narratives. Well, in Oklahoma, they had the Indian Pioneer Papers, where in the 1930s, they interviewed hundreds of people who were on the frontier. And a lot of that information was alluded to Bass Reeves and what he had done. And so the interesting thing, too, on that was when I was in Indian Pioneer Papers, African Americans, I guess, were very leery about talking too much about Bass, because this is the 1930s. Most of the interviewers were white, so they were very leery. And so a lot of the best stuff you get about Bass Reeves is coming from white people, which is very interesting. And they talked about him at length, in terms of what he did and how he did it. And the black people interviewed, they would just say, oh yeah, I knew about him, I knew him, blah, or, So that was kind of interesting also.
Okay, so far what I picked up these 2 key things. Number 1, get research from everywhere. Did you notice that he mentioned it could be the written word, it could be the spoken word. So you pull your information from as many sources as you can. And the last thing that he mentioned in this down and dirty, quick and easy way for us to do research is to make sure you stay objective. Stay objective. And I like what he said, because he did do this in Black Gun, Silver Star. He presented all sides of the story to let you, the reader, make your determination of who Bass Reeves was and his legacy and the legend, and if you connect with it in the way that he did. So again, get your information from as many sources as possible, and make sure you remain objective when you're putting that message together and presenting it to your reader, in your case, Art, or in our case, the audience.